All right,
All
sounds
right.
good.
All right. We are here taking a look at TeleScale, and I'm joined by RICHicken.
Yeah. Hello.
All right. So I'll go ahead and start playing through. Now, I tried to play through most of the game, but I got stuck on the last level, and we were just saying, like, it would be nice if there were more, if there was time, of course, to include more, like, lead up levels that teach you the mechanics of the game. Like, overall, I feel like I understand the basic mechanics, like get box, put box on button, go to ending, and then
Yeah.
use these portals to get bigger, way down box, then become smaller again, and then go through portal. Um, it's a really interesting blend of visuals as well. I wanted to say that.
Oh yeah. This was my first time ever doing 2D art, so
But it's really neat the way that
yeah.
you've managed to integrate what looks like hand drawn, but also like some active mesh deformation.
Yeah. So the character's actually a bunch of spheres.
Uh,
Actually, like a bunch of circles,
yeah, yeah.
and I used the shader to make a little outline around them. I just kind of moved the spheres around.
Interesting. Um, so, yeah, do you want to, I guess, start things off by just talking a little bit about your background in game development and your role on this project?
Yes. So I haven't actually released any games myself, but a friend and I are working on a long-term game. Um, that we don't have a name for right now, but it's like a roguelike game. And currently, I do like we tend to work on. Like he tends to do the what's it called, the programming
Mhm.
and like UI kind of stuff. I tend to do the like visuals, audio. Usually, I do 3D, by the way. That's
Mhm.
why I said earlier about 2D.
Yep.
But I usually do the visuals, the music, and like sound design and like level design. Uh, and in this game, it's pretty similar for the roles. I did all of the visuals. I made that little like background track loop that you're hearing.
Mhm.
Um, if you want to call it sound design, I just downloaded a bunch of sounds and like pitch shifted them. And uh, I did all the puzzle design here as well. Which this is my first time ever making puzzles as well.
Hey, it's for a first effort, I think this is quite commendable. There is actually some good advice that I can share on that just from other like puzzle creators that I've
Yeah,
whose games I played. But we'll
yeah,
get to that.
it's been interesting. Yeah, it's been interesting seeing. I've seen a few streamers play through this, and it's been interesting seeing how people like navigate through them because
Mhm.
it helps a lot to see like, because obviously I know the solutions. It's kind of hard to put into perspective on like someone who's never seen it before.
Yeah, there's definitely some spots in which people get stuck, and then you want to see like what skill did they not learn, which part of the level design did they ignore. Like I spent a lot of time on this
Yeah,
specific puzzle, ignoring this little cube up at the top here. That would have made it easier. It's
yeah.
square. I call it a cube, but uh,
No, I tried to. I think in hindsight, there are a few things I probably could have done. So this level's. I had like a goal in mind with
mhm.
which like with each of the levels like for teaching mechanics because the way we did it is because like the time crunch. I
Yeah,
spent essentially a whole game jam day making the final level, and then after that I made all the previous levels to teach the mechanics needed for that final one.
right.
Um, so like this one, the goal for this was to show that you can put multiple objects onto one pressure plate, and then also to show that like portal jumping, like the fact that you jump higher as a bigger person takes
Mhm.
you farther when you go small. So that's kind of what I was trying to show with this level here.
Yeah,
Um,
I ended up managing to learn one of those lessons backwards somehow, but
oh yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, we did that, and then um, yeah, I did like all the puzzle design, and then I made the uh, I also did the programming for like that are related to the visuals, so like the characters like hood kind of moving around
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Nice. I just wanted to quickly acknowledge, like, Dino 0040. I don't know if I can do the entire thing as Skeletor. I think it's going to make the VOD a little grating. Give me a specific line you want me to read as Skeletor, or if there were more dialogue in this game, I would read it as Skeletor. But give me something specific. Also, hi Funbase Alpha, and I agree. I do like the sort of like crayon aesthetic.
Thanks.
On the tiles especially, that looks really nice. Like the environment tiles.
I used the randomized brush in Sprite, and it ended up giving me that style.
Yeah, it works. It works.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Like for a puzzle game, especially being able to play test it, like if you have like it's so hard in the context of a jam to design something that has this kind of like puzzle element to it, because it sort of lives or dies on whether or not people can figure it out, and the easiest way to get a handle on whether or not people understand the puzzle is to watch someone actually like play it, but then you don't necessarily have time to get it complete, and it's so difficult.
Yeah, I'm already seeing like some things I would change. For example, is like I would first of all have a different color. So right now, if you use a weight that's too high for a pressure plate, like it'll still work, but the pressure plate will be brighter. Like in hindsight, I probably should have just made a different color. So then maybe you could have seen, oh, like this box could be smaller and still work. I think that would have helped with this first part here, of this puzzle right here.
Yeah,
I think like see that.
Maybe a way that I would have done that in a slightly different fashion, because you can't always rely on color, right? You have to consider the fact that like 10% of people can't rely on color. So if you had little indicators, like
like the little gauge, like a pressure gauge or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So something that shows, just like with a needle and then a bunch of dashes, and it shows like exactly how much it needs to be, because then you can mark out a portion of that as like, anything that's within the green is good, and then you can have it like move over into the sort of like far side of that, so the player knows that's heavier than it necessarily needs to be.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I just think I tried to make it correlated to size. So like for example, the pressure plate on the right there also needs like a bigger view. But I think I tried to make the plates a little bit more forgiving, so I made them a little bit. I kind of made that like the plates are one size bigger, but I think that makes it a little bit more complicated to understand.
Yeah, I think right now, if there's an internal scale that you have in mind for like what size a box is and what size a pressure pad is, I don't necessarily have that same correlation. I haven't internalized what that difference is.
Yeah. Now, ideally, also, if I had more time, like, because right now I basically currently with the way the levels are, I show the different like individual mechanics and then instantly throw you into a level that puts them all together. And I think if I had more time, I would have probably had like mechanic A, mechanic B, and then a puzzle with mechanic A and B working together, and then like C, and then with like B and C working together, and then have like the full level. But right now I kind of show the good ones.
I think the so I mentioned earlier that I was going to share some advice, but really what it is just a certain puzzle creator who I think does a particularly good job. See if I can just find the user specific page. So there is not a single game jam that goes past without me mentioning this specific. Well, if it involves puzzles, Zach E has done a great job on puzzles. It's specifically, Side by Size is a paid game now. Is there a free version of it still? Because that would be nice. Okay, well, when there was a free version, hang on, original gem version here. Yes, so you can still play it. What I think is particularly good about these games is that they introduce mechanics really like one at a time, such that it's almost impossible to do it wrong. Like you, the very first level, you just walk through to the end. And then the second level, okay, you take some damage and you walk through, you die. Okay, well, if I take damage and then I stand on this green pad, then now I can move on and I can take damage and I can move forward. So it's very
Yeah.
slowly showing you like, well, now I'm on this next screen. There's literally nothing I can do. I can take damage. Oh, taking damage makes these things smaller. Now I can move on. And I get
Yeah.
this little HP heart. I see that this thing became bigger. I got the HP heart again. It became even bigger. Like, it is forcing you to observe the mechanics of the game. These aren't even levels necessarily. There's no puzzle. It's just
Yeah.
literally the only way to solve it is by going through the motions. But it is teaching you in those moments.
Yeah, I tried doing that with the first two levels, but yeah, I kind of got lost in the in like the next few mechanics.
And then yeah, slowly but surely you start to layer in the levels that are an actual puzzle in terms of like the way that you will survive or yeah. So anyway, the sort of second half of the advice here is that once you introduce the player to a certain mechanic, if you end up with a level that's really difficult, then what you can do is copy paste it, split the level in two, and now the first time that the player encounters that level, they'll sort of see like the simplified version of the puzzle. So you see how I beat one level and now I'm on another level that looks very similar.
Okay, yeah.
And now if I sort of move forward, I realize like, oh, the solution that I tried that worked on the previous level doesn't work on this one. So what do I do here? Like how do I go about this in a different fashion that's going to get me to the solution? So
Yeah.
it just kind of like makes you realize like, oh, okay, it helps kind of eliminate a possibility in your mind and kind of primes you to what the solution for the level is going to be.
Mhm.
So yeah, that is why I tend to refer to like this game specifically, but also just generally games by this
Yeah.
creator, because they end up being a really good reference for puzzle design. So with all that said, let's let the video play through here, because I can't figure out the last level, but I'd like to have it have the solution shown off on stream.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that last part though is actually one I haven't thought about before. Like that's a good one to use. A good like strategy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty intuitive to say introduce mechanics one at a time, but I really like the second half of that in terms of like, oh yeah, it's very true. That's just not a way that I've necessarily approached puzzle design before.
Yeah.
All that being said, what would you say was the inspiration behind this specific game?
So I played Super Mario Maker a while back, and one like popular level type is those one-screen puzzles.
Yeah.
Um, and I always thought those were kind of fun, so I kind of wanted to make something that was like that in this. And then other than that, like, I guess I I guess I could say Celeste for the I use like the hair kind of physics that they had in there for the hood,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's about it.
Oh man, so that little box can weigh down that big pressure pad. That's again something that I wouldn't have
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah, that was
expected.
yeah. I tried switching it around. I tried to make it a smaller pressure plate, but with the physics, made it kind of unreliable to actually land on there. So
Yeah, when you drop the box.
yeah, so I kind of had to just do that for now as like a band-aid. But it did make it a bit more like complicated to understand. My hope was that basically, since that's the only option you
Yeah.
have, eventually you'll try it and then like you'll see it does work.
So, do you think that in a post-gen version, are you going to try to add some more levels, or do you have any
Um,
plans for a post-gen version?
so we're probably not going to. There's another smaller scale game that we're doing that we wanted to do that was going to use puzzles, and we
Mhm.
had some mechanics in there, and we thought we actually wanted to use this gym as a way to practice puzzle design
Mhm.
specifically. So that was kind of the goal of this one. So seeing other people's gameplay has been really helpful.
The other thing that I can say is that this specific puzzle requires so many separate steps to solve. I would expect this
Yeah.
as like level 30 in a puzzle
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. No, for sure. I've seen only one person on stream beat it, and uh they really liked the level, but that was probably it's only one of those things that you only get the satisfaction of like after you uh spend a long time beating it, which
Yeah.
is a bit tough in like a stream setting.
I mean, it is a neat puzzle, and I appreciate how intricate the solution is. But I'm
Yeah.
not exaggerating when I said like the 30th puzzle or something like just
Yeah.
that seems like it's really deep into and understanding the mechanics and um, I guess it's sort of because what I think of in terms of puzzle design. Um, I tend to think of a good puzzle as having one particular trick to the mechanics that you need to figure out. You want to have that
Yeah.
one aha moment, and then you execute on that, and then you're able to move on. When you
Yeah.
start to layer on the number of necessary steps to complete a puzzle, I mean, it's interesting, and I'm certain that there are puzzle players who are like really diehard puzzle fanatics who love that kind of thing. For my
Yeah.
part, as a more casual puzzle player, I'm looking for something that maybe requires like not quite so many moves because,
Yeah.
and I would say maybe the main reason for that actually is just I start to get bogged down by the possibility space. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. Yeah. Like
So
there's too many options for
exactly. Like if I figure it out, that's great. If I need to start like trial and error working through all the different possible solutions, if there are too many steps or too many moves or too many possibilities as how something could be solved, I will just completely like spiral out and I don't know, I fill up my brain's RAM on like, oh man, it could be solved so many different ways. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think specifically what I said in the chat was like, I don't know what I haven't tried yet, and that's
Yeah.
the feeling that I like to avoid. Um,
Yeah.
but as I said, that is coming from the perspective of somebody who enjoys puzzles and games, typically, like from but a more casual perspective. I like Portal. I'm not gonna go and play Stephen Sausage Roll or something like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's really good to know though. Like yeah, and I think definitely it did need like a lot more like transitions to this point.
Specifically for the game that you're working on now, do you want it to be puzzle light or puzzle heavy?
It's gonna have puzzle elements. It's not as heavy as like this one.
So puzzles are just kind of there, incidental, but like I don't know. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like what that game is going to be?
It's gonna it's kind of more like it's so it has some mechanics with like kind of like how you're moving like through time, uh, and like it's gonna be like a bit more like platformer heavy, but there's gonna be some like down. The puzzle's gonna be more like a downtime thing rather than like a like an actual main mechanic. So it's not gonna be nearly as complex as these ones, but
Do you have a like X meets Y kind of summary of what that project is going to be?
no, that one's pretty early in development. So like
Okay.
we're still like on like the idea stage of it. So um there's a lot less. We actually kind of wanted to use this game jam as like a way to see like what exactly would even like what we should even like consider, I guess. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Because we do
maybe we won't get into it so much on this particular interview, but like this is one of the main reasons I do my sort of regular feedback stream is because I want to give people the opportunity to like talk through these things. So even if it is just an early concept, I'd be happy to like both you and your partner can join on the stream and we can talk through what you're going for, what trying to like find the fun and a way to sort of what direction to take the project in.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think I definitely will do that once we get to that point.
Yeah, that'd be great. So then for now, talking more about this game, can you talk a little bit about what the most difficult problem that you encountered during the jam was and what your solution to that problem was?
Yes, so I guess a few things specifically for this jam. This was I think the first jam where like it was a super busy like weekend for both me and the person I was working with.
Mhm.
Like we not that neither of our like schedules aligned at all. So there was a lot of parts where we'd communicate something and then we would hand it off to the other person, and
Yeah.
then I think both of us would keep coming back with like a surprise on like what was there. I guess not a surprise, like we knew what was coming, but um if there was something that like needed a slight change, then uh that was a lot harder to do since we weren't like working like concurrently, I guess.
Mhm, mhm.
And then also, yeah, that last level definitely did also take up like a whole game jam day. So like it was, I think it left way less time for the other parts. So that was actually the first time like I was probably trying to design a level that like you had to kind of think, but also because I guess the way I would say is like I kept running into problems where the puzzle was either something where you just execute the steps,
Mhm.
and it wasn't satisfying at all to complete, or there's also it used to be way more convoluted than this um, before as well. So I already like had to like simplify it a lot more. We actually had even more mechanics in this game before. Like we had like breakable platforms
Oh
that like you
man.
need to be a certain way to break.
Mhm.
And that uh opened up just a lot of that. It was like a huge mess because like for example the breakable platforms, there was way more soft locking than there is right
Mhm,
now.
mhm.
um, and so we had to cut a lot of that out. So it took a long time to get to this point, but it was still definitely, as you can see, like pretty difficult
Oh yeah.
for myself. So that was definitely the hardest part because then I had to think about how to introduce all these mechanics. So that's what we did, and that's also why I decided to make a walkthrough. So because I was definitely worried that like this would be hard for a lot of people to solve with like the limited information. But yeah, like our solution though was like again, like as I said, like we cut back on a lot of the mechanics. We also actually because he like we didn't have like lining up schedules. I
Mhm.
did have him try to play test the levels uh, whenever like he came back and see if he could figure it out.
Yeah.
Although again, it's still a little bit it's still not like fully accurate to like a new player because he does still know the mechanics because he made them.
Yeah.
So yeah, like but we did try to like make the most of that. Of okay, like at least if we're not going to be working concurrently, he's not going to see me make the levels. At least we can have him like try them out, see how it works.
I think that's a like, better than nothing, right? Like you've got to work with the members of your team that you have at your disposal. Like I think it's a like if you don't have something ready to share publicly early on, which like we were lucky with our game that I was able to sort of start on the level design early enough that I could get some initial feedback as to the feel, and then we just sort of went back through and cleaned things up on Monday morning.
Yeah. Oh, also one thing that didn't help. There's one other person that like we mainly got to try this level that wasn't part of our team, but he is like as you described like a puzzle fanatic. So I think there are some things that he actually wanted to be more difficult. So that
Oh
I
no.
think yeah, I didn't fully fully listen to that one, but yeah. So it was. I think I had less people who would I guess represent like the general audience of like the game jam
Yeah,
in general.
it's funny just because I'm gonna switch over to our game here for a second. One of the one of the things that stands out in our game is you have this hammer that just continuously grows larger. And to illustrate that, I started the game with the player having the hammer already at 67% scale. And when you start moving, it immediately starts to grow. And my thinking was the player will have just enough time to walk across this screen and touch this grindstone to get the hammer back down to a small size. And if not, if they die on the very first screen, they at least realize the mechanic of like, oh, that's why this works.
Yeah.
And you have like more than enough time to get over here to get the hammer down to size. One of the people who playtested the game said, oh, I wish the hammer started at a smaller size when the game began. And our programmer immediately implemented that. Just like without asking, just like, oh, okay, we should make it smaller. And then I'm like, no, the level is designed, like the other reason that you start with such a huge hammer is because I want the player to immediately be able to pull off this big jump here. I don't want them to start with something small. The game and the momentum is everything is based around having that small hammer. So I think what he did, what eventually changed, is that the hammer doesn't start growing immediately. You notice I'm not touching any buttons. The time hasn't started, and the hammer's not growing. So that was our compromise. But I think it illustrates really well the point where just because a playtester says one thing, don't immediately go for that. Take a second to think about like what's perhaps the motivation behind what they're saying, and see if there's a different way you can address it that doesn't end up potentially undoing something that you had done intentionally.
Yeah, one thing I did actually try to do was, for example, if you go back to the video, if you see the start of the last level, like I tried to, for example, place like the
block, resting on that.
Yeah, resting on it. Like I tried to like kind of communicate kind of where things were supposed to go. And I one thing actually I also realized, a lot of people didn't realize those were portal stands. Like for example, the one that's like right next to the block on the very bottom there.
Yeah.
Which obviously makes it also a bit harder to understand like what exactly that is. I think one person thought it was like an egg. And, yeah, so I think definitely there were some things I could have pointed out better for that. But like yeah, no, there was just I think it was a bit tough of like trying to figure out like how to make it fit for a general audience, because
I do think it's something you're going to run into is just having things like fidelity is such an important part of puzzle design, like and like clear communication, right? I designed a different game. Let's see if I can pull up a screenshot. Fortress. Is there something that illustrates this? There are, let's call them, there are some puzzle elements in this game which rely on these cables. They're not visible in any of the screenshots. Basically, there are these like conduits that you have to shoot, and those will send power to something else. Like they will power a light bridge or something, so you can then walk across. But just getting the association for players to realize, like, shoot this thing and then it makes this turn on was really difficult. Like, originally we just had cables connecting the two. People didn't realize that the cables were connected in any way. Eventually we made them like actually animated, so they have like little dots that would travel along in a sequence, and that kind of helped to catch people's eyes. Because you're doing a similar thing with the like particle streams kind of flowing through. Which I noticed those are static patterns. Is that just a like looped texture that's streaming?
Yeah, it's just a looped texture.
Yeah, so it's not actually particles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks nice though. And I think it does, like, you arrived at the same thing effectively, that you have motion along the lines that helps draw your eye. Like, this is connected to this. There's no way of mistaking that.
Yeah, we actually used to have a similar thing. We had like wires within we had a specific type of tile that was a wire.
Yeah.
That connected through them, but it started getting like really convoluted, especially because our tile set like is pretty big.
Yeah.
So like if you had especially multiple wires going over each
Overlapping.
other,
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of hard to track. So we tried to go with something that was more
Yeah.
like this.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, all right, so we kind of went a little out of order in terms of some of the questions here, but if anyone has any questions from chat, now would be a good time to
Okay.
ask those. Because we've already talked about like if you had any plans for the game going forward, but it sounds like this is more just a test bed for the other long-term project that you'd like to work on.
Yeah, it's just like I just wanted to figure out exactly what I would have to like what kind of like obstacles that I have to go through when making a puzzle game in general.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. Um, all right, well, if people want to find out more about that long-term project, what's the best place they can follow your itch.io page, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so my itch page is where that would be. It's probably gonna be a while until anything ever shows up on there. I can
Mm-hmm.
also can I am I able to put links in chat? I can
Yeah,
put my
yeah.
friends in there as well. Okay, yeah. There we go. That's also my friends right there.
Are they included as? Yeah, yeah. Here we go. Salty syrup.
Yeah.
Who worked? Oh yeah, I see. I see. You made Dice Defenders for the. Is that
Yeah,
for the previous
we've made
GMTK?
3 games together. Yeah, this
Nice.
was for the previous one.
Or
This
two
one
years
is I
ago.
think the one I'm the least least proud of.
Oh, okay.
But there's a lot of time management issues with that one.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on and showing off the game and having a chat about it. I wish you the best of luck on that other project, and yeah, maybe we can check out, have a conversation about that on a future feedback stream.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right. Bye for now.
All right, bye.